Hello, everyone. So I'm Edouard Vio, the product manager of the web application firewall. And so the title of our webinar is How to Secure Your Application Deployed into the Cloud. So thank you all to attend this webinar. Just to let you know, if you have some question, you can put it into GoToWebinar, and at the end of the presentation, I will be able to answer your questions. So let's begin. It's about the application into the cloud and how to secure them. So the first step is to present the main challenges that you have when you want to deploy your application to the cloud. What are we currently doing at Rohde & Schwarz to protect them? And what do we have in roadmap to enhance it? So first, what are the main challenges? So within your digital transformation, you need to provide more and more application and more APIs. Every company begin to be a software vendor, but at the same time, you have some regulation to respect. Some of them are specific to your vertical, like PCI DSS, but some of the regulation are for all companies. On the same side, you must remain competitive. You have other people in your market, and so you want to have a fast go-to-market. And you need to take security into account at the beginning of your project, because the past shows that if security is synced at the end of a project, it does not work. So the future of the application is web-based. Most of the application use web technologies in order to be accessible by everyone. And even if we, in some cases, we think that an application is not web-based, let's put an example. If I develop an application for iOS, it's not a website, it's an application, but in some cases, this application is based on web technologies. But at the end, the application will connect to a backend server through an API to take some information, to put some information. For example, if I develop a video game, at the end of my game, a connection to a server will upload my iScore or my credits that I have left to continue to play the game, and so on and so forth. And all this connection through APIs are HTTP based, and so the scopes that need to be secure is not only public website, public application, but also all the machine-to-machine connection that are done through API that need to be protected by a web application firewall. Things are also changing in a way to produce an application. Usually, for example, 10 years ago, we used to develop our application in a V cycle, so with specification, and at the end, we develop the application, for example, for 8 months, then we do a quality assessment for 2 months, and then 2 another months in order to put it into production. And the go-to-market was not fast enough to continue this. It's why DevOps is more and more popular within the organizations nowadays. And so the idea is that the production is part of the same team with the development, because production is so much important that you need to take some guys that really know the product really well, and that are integrated into the same teams as the developer, in order to make sure that everything will be okay. So we see more and more DevOps, and the new idea is to involve security also into the same team, so to have developers, security guys and operation guys within the same team exchanging information. And the idea is with the DevSecOps to have the security in mind at the beginning of the project when we write some code, and not when the project is finished and we need to secure it. So DevSecOps is a chance for us to change what we have done in the past and to really provide secure code and secure capabilities into the project. We also have multiple deployment scenarios. For example, so we want obviously to deploy into the cloud to be scalable enough for plenty of reasons. But at the same time, the organizations that we speak with within Rohde & Schwarz has also some application deployed into their own data centers, all the legacy applications. And in some case, the applications are deployed in a public cloud, in some case in a private cloud, in hybrid clouds, offered as a SaaS mode. So yeah, we need to take into account multiple deployment when we create application, but also us, Rohde & Schwarz, when we provide protection. And finally, scaling is a must-have. If we need to scale, we don't want anymore to buy some new machine, deploy it into our data centers, buy some new license from all our vendors. So we want nothing human and everything automated. So yeah, scaling is important. If you want to handle 1 or 100 or 1,000 customers, you need to be able to do it without any human intervention. And to be able, for example, to handle a peak of traffic that will occur, for example, for 4 hours, but when the peak of traffic is finished, being also able to scale down. So yeah, the main challenge to be addressed. So the first one is sovereignty. Sovereignty is really well known by everybody. We speak about sovereignty since the Patriot Act a few years ago, and the 3 leaders into the cloud platform, which are Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, decided to deploy data center into Europe, for example, or outside US, in order to be able to bypass, in a way, the Patriot Act. So a lot of European companies became confident for deploying their data into the cloud. And the Cloud Act reopened the question of sovereignty. So the idea of the Cloud Act is to be able for USA to be able to access your data, even if they are in Europe, if they are hosted by a data center that is American. So let's say Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. So yeah, it has been a big problem because for those of the enterprise who choose to deploy into the clouds, when the Cloud Act occurred, they didn't have any way to fall back to a classical data center. It was kind of too late, so too much complicated to roll back the cloud deployment and to redeploy into a classic scenario. So yeah, sovereignty is a big problem, but at the same time, a lot of big companies are being able to choose to deploy on AWS. The main idea is for some of these customers, if the data center is located into their country, it's okay. We can deploy application, at least the less critical one. But for some of the other clients that we interviewed at Rohde & Schwarz, it was not okay at all. So yeah, it really depends on the customer's maturity and point of view. The second challenge to be addressed is the lock-in. So yeah, the idea of Amazon of Microsoft and Google is to create some service in order to increase the stickiness that you will have on their platform. So they don't want to be only infrastructure provider, but to provide some services on top of this. And yeah, their tool is really to create this adherence to their platform, so that if you are on AWS and Azure become cheaper, for example, you will be reluctant to migrate because you are using so much services from Amazon. So yeah, lock-in is really important. For example, if you want to enter into multiple cloud deployment, you won't want to use some services that only exist in one of their platforms. The last one is security. So yeah, it's well known, but yeah, really with DevSecOps, we have a chance to design some secure by design products, and all the security vendors like Rohde & Schwarz need to really focus on the DevSecOps persona to give them the right tool to do the right job. Here it's an example of the hybrid cloud deployment. So when we interviewed some customers, we have seen that some of them want to build a private cloud to be cheaper than public cloud. Cheaper in a way that if a virtual machine is used all day long and all week long, it will be usually cheaper to invest and do not rent it for public cloud. But at the same time, public cloud is perfect for scaling. When you have a peak of traffic, you want to rely on them to be able to scale. So the idea of the hybrid cloud is to both use private and public cloud. And you have, for example, a few machines on your private cloud that will be able to handle 95% of the time all the traffic. And when you have a peak of traffic and you need to scale, you rely on the public cloud to do so. And for multi-cloud and hybrid cloud scenarios, so you need to leverage an agnostic technology. That is what we are proposing, including the security layer associated to the application. And for multi-cloud, so we have a lot of customers that want to both deploy on Azure and GCP. Not the same application, but for example, in a big group, some of your subsidiaries will be choosing AWS and some other Azure, for example. So yeah, you as a security team, you need to be able to provide the tools that will benefits for all of them, and not invest in each technology. For example, the WAF of Amazon, the WAF of Azure, do some training on all the products, handle the false positive, and so on and so forth. For us, the paradigm changed a little bit also, because yesterday we used to have a management console that handle all our WAF instances and directly push the policies, receive the logs. You can, through the management console, see aggregated reportings. Now it changed a little bit, because an orchestrator like Terraform, for example, will need to connect to the WAF to have some metrics in order to know if it needs to be scaled or not. Needs when a new WAF is created by an orchestrator automatically to inject some policies in it, and so on. So you need to provide some API in order to do so outside of your management console. And what is changing for us, Rohde & Schwarz, through the digital transformation, is also the people that we are talking to. So we are talking to infrastructure teams since years, and they need to host application. In some cases, they don't build it or they don't control it. For example, as an infrastructure team, you host a SharePoint instance and you need to secure it. Then a new person has been the DevOps and DevSecOps teams. They need to test their code through, for example, a dev environment to make sure that when you write some code, it will be compatible with the security layers that will be associated. It won't produce any false positive. It will be okay in terms of performance and so on and so forth. MSSP partners also, so it's a kind of new persona. So they have special requirements, for example, to have a fully multi-tenant solution in order to easily address several customers with the same dashboard, with the same alerting system, and so on. And the SaaS windows. So it's not new, but it's becoming more and more important in terms of market. So yeah, within their digital transformation, a lot of companies are becoming SaaS vendors and need to embed a technology flexible enough to protect their application, but also all their APIs that they are producing. So yeah, what we are currently doing. So obviously we are integrated into the marketplace. You can since a few years deploy our WAF in AWS, for example. But we are currently working on the product to enhance the auto scaling capabilities. So to do so, we provide some templates like Terraform templates, so that you are able to directly inject the template into your orchestrator and automatically scale up, scale down using auto scaling groups. Orchestration API. So with the API, you are being able to do the same things that you are doing with the classical GUI, for example. Better monitoring. So the idea is to provide some metrics to the orchestrator so that they really know when they need to scale your WAF or not. And recommendation in terms of architecture, deployment, special use cases, and so on. So this work for auto scaling has already been done for AWS. It will be done in October for Azure and January for Google Cloud Platform. So yeah, in the cloud we have different pricing models. The first one is bring your license. So in this case, you pay the infrastructure fee, and then you already have a perpetual license of the WAF, and you pay the maintenance each year. And so you import directly your own license that you bought from Rohde & Schwarz directly into the marketplace. The second one is pay as you go. So you pay obviously the infrastructure fee, and you will use the WAF and pay, for example, per hour of usage. So it's interesting, for example, when you want to scale for 1 hour on a machine, but you don't want to buy a license for this. And in this case, in Amazon, for example, Amazon will charge you for all the costs and will take the money for the infrastructure fee and give us some money for the license usage. And the last one is WAF as a service. So in our case, we have a Cloud Protector, which is a SaaS version of our web application firewall. So in this case, you directly redirect the traffic from your DNS to our hosted infrastructure, and then we filter with our WAF the traffic, and then the traffic from our infrastructure goes directly to your backend. In the case of Cloud Protector, so it's a subscription based on the number of application and your bandwidth usage. And you have a website in order to create your security policies under your false positive, being able to see the dashboard. So it is a schema to give another example of how it works in a public cloud. So you have different users, browsers, real human, and at the right, a robot, for example, that will connect to your backend and so to our WAF. And when, for example, you have a peak of traffic and the orchestrator sees that the CPU usage is becoming important on one WAF instances, is being able to create another WAF automatically with, for example, the Terraform templates that Rohde-Schwarz provides. So you have a second WAF. If, for example, you have a big peak of traffic and another metric say, okay, the second WAF will have a huge workload, we will be able to provide another WAF and so on and so forth. So it's fully automatic without any human interaction. And then when we scale, you need to scale down. For example, when the peak of traffic is finished, we are also being able to detect that the CPU or RAM usage is okay on this 3 machine. Then we will remove 1, remove 2, and go to the initial scenario, for example, in order to handle the classical traffic. And like I've put in the previous slide, so what you could do, for example, is using bring your license for the first WAF machine or the first 2 or 3 WAF machine that will handle the traffic 90% of the time, and use pay-as-you-go and auto-scaling groups in order to scale on the 2 or the WAF. It's a good transition to show what we will do into the future. So currently, when we are scaling some virtual machine. So virtual machine is composed of several modules like a Linux kernel, some configuration capabilities, security engines, reportings. And when we need to scale, when, for example, the security needs to take a lot of CPU usage, we will bring another virtual machine in order to scale. So it's really okay. It answers to the customer needs, but we want to go deeper with microservices architecture and to have each functional capability inside a container, a different container, so that if security engines need to scale, you won't have to scale all the capabilities that was inside a virtual machine, but only to scale the security engines, so that you are much more granular into your scaling capabilities, and you are being able to scale faster and in a cheaper way, and you will be able to handle more and more traffic easily. So yeah, it's the first step of our new architecture. But the idea for Rohde-Schwarz is to provide the next generation platform. We are already working on it. We already have the platform, and we will put some capabilities on top of this. So when I say Rohde-Schwarz platform, it means that it will be hosted by ourselves. And so it's at the right of the slide, and at the left you have Cloud Protector, so which is the SaaS version of our web application firewall. So Cloud Protector is also hosted by Rohde-Schwarz, and on-premise web application firewall. So when we say on-premise, it means hosted outside Rohde & Schwarz, but it will be directly in your data center, but also deployed on Amazon Marketplace, Amazon Cloud, for example. And yeah, so we want to put some capabilities, for example, the log management and monitoring reporting, and create some new alerting capabilities on top of this, and put it from the old Cloud Protector, the current Cloud Protector platform, through the next generation platform, but also for the on-premise to be able to connect to this Rohde & Schwarz next generation platform. It means that you can have a product that stay on-premise close to the application, but some capabilities will be directly hosted by Rohde & Schwarz. And we will do it in a lean approach, so each functionality by functionality. But at the end, you will have a new GUI, a new web GUI that you will be able to connect through your browser directly without hosting anything on your own premise. And at the end, what will stay on premise will be the security engines, because it can be important that they stay close to the application, and all the other capabilities will be on our next generation platform. The good feedback about doing it is that we can update more frequently, since it will be a SaaS platform. So if we, as our DevSecOps, will be able to develop something and deploy it the same week, and not waiting for all the customer to deploy it, and so on and so forth. And for you as a customer, it will be much more easier to manage, because quite all the updates will be done by ourselves, and you will only take the update on the security engines if you are on premise, and nothing if you continue to rely on Cloud Protector. And yeah, sorry, the orange part are new capabilities. So on top of this, when we have, for example, the logs that will be anonymized, we will be able to put some machine learning capabilities on top of this to do some other innovation, but also to develop some DevSecOps modules, especially tailored for the development teams. So SaaS on-premise, it's what you already know, what we already have through Cloud Protector and our classical Rohde & Schwarz Web Application Firewall. So classic deployment methods, it will remain supported. In the future, you could also enter into hybrid deployment methods. It's what I've shown. So you can have security engines on-premise, but being able to connect to a SaaS platform with your on-premise deployment and use some capabilities directly into our cloud. Then we will develop Kubernetes container sidecars. So the idea is when you develop some microservice-based application using, for example, Kubernetes as an orchestrator, we want to provide some sidecars that will connect to your containers and secure all the traffic. So it means that it's being able to do not only secure the public API traffic, but all the container-to-container communication. So all the internal API communication inside your applications. And in-app technology, so provide an API that you can query directly through some code as a DevOps. And then, for example, if you have some serverless deployment where Amazon take care about the container, but it's fully transparent for you, and you don't manage directly the Kubernetes cluster, you are being able, even when you are serverless, to secure your code. So yeah, the idea is to provide new innovation that will follow your application maturity. And the more you will go, for example, for serverless or microservices, we will be able to provide some tailored web application firewall technologies. And so having our own platform is also a way to provide you quickly, without any updates from yourself, some new capabilities like alerting, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, it's good to have better detection, but also really important to reduce the false positive rate, help with the human decision, for example. And we will have an API focus. We currently have a lot of API protection capabilities, but we know that API will be more and more important into the future, and will be a huge open door for hackers. So we continue to invest into the innovation inside API protection. So as a conclusion, yeah, we are currently into the cloud, providing some auto-scaling capabilities. We are building an hybrid offer with Rohde & Schwarz new generation clouds. We imagine different deployment methods, and we will really focus on DevSecOps needs. And it's really important for us to, as a product management, we do a lot of interviews with our customers and partners. And it's also important for us to be able to speak with the DevSecOps team in order to develop some products that are really tailored to their needs. So yeah, if you want to be part of the this user group, please send me an email at edouard.vio@rohde-schwarz.com, and I will be happy to integrate you into this survey. Okay, so it's the end of my presentation. I will go through the questions. So the first one is, do you have some customers that are using multi-cloud? Yes, especially the large companies, the big groups with several subsidiaries. And what we have seen is that the people that are talking to us and buying our solution are not being able to say, okay, when you will need to deploy an application, it will be on Amazon, for example, or it will be on Microsoft. It's not possible for them because, as we said, Amazon provides some interesting capabilities. Azure also not the same. So some teams need to rely on the PaaS, the platform of Amazon, leveraging their services in order to develop more quickly and to have a better go-to-market. So yeah, they really need Amazon. And inside the same group, another development team will say, okay, we need to develop in Azure, because if we don't do it, we will need more time into the R&D department and so on. So yeah, they don't choose the deployment, so they need to provide an agnostic technology in order to be able to deploy on each deployment method that we could imagine. Okay, yeah, the second question is about the pricing model that we will have for the log and reporting and this new platform. So, for example, we've shown that the first step will be the log management, monitoring, and alerting. So here the idea is to be able to pay as you go. So being able to have a quota for the logs that you will be able to ingest into the Rohde & Schwarz monitoring system. And then if you go through over this quota, you will be able to pay for some new pack of gigabytes. And yeah, it's a real pay-as-you-go model. But if you want to stay into a classical model where you pay for a year, you will be able to buy us directly 1 year of credit, and we will credit your account, and then it will consume the money that you have into our account. Yeah, and yeah, another question was about the roadmap. Because yeah, the roadmap outside cloud, because yeah, into this webinar, I put a focus inside the cloud integration, automation, and scalability. Of course, inside the same roadmap, we have some other capabilities. For example, we have provided bot mitigation in beta version into the last version, and it will be fully released in October. So bot mitigation idea is to make the difference between a human and a robot, and a bad bot. So you will be able to say, okay, for the Google crawler, I will let him pass. But if a script try to scrap all my price or try to exploit a vulnerability, we will be able to make the difference between a real human and this bot and blocking this bad bot, for example. So yeah, it's an idea of the new capabilities that we provide. And on each release, we have a list of feature requests by our prospect and customers. And for each release, we select some of them and provide them into all the different release that we have into the product. Okay, so yeah, I've answered to the questions. So thank you for your attention. If you have another questions, don't hesitate to contact us, and you can also contact me directly by email if you have some idea for our new product and want to be part of the Rohde & Schwarz user group. Thank you so much.